Hi, everyone. I'm Christine Tulley, President and Executive Writing Coach at Defend, Publish, and Lead. Welcome to episode 162, How to Plan Your Week. We've done some episodes on time management and planning before in the past, and in our show notes for this episode, I will put a link to a playlist that we made of some of those episodes if you're interested in thinking through some of the time management challenges with scholarly work. But I also wanted to spend this week's episode kind of talking about what ideally happens when you're planning your week and then what happens when you don't plan your week. And I'm going to use myself as an example. There has been lots of research about the importance of just making sure that you have time for scholarly writing and not letting writing just happen to you. So, for example, I would imagine most of us that are getting writing completed don't just go about our week and hope for some time to open up to get it completed. One really good article about this is a post by Carrie Ann Rockmore that talked about having a Sunday meeting where you basically really plan out your week and figure out where is the writing going to go. So I love that as a way to really pay attention to when writing's going to happen. I've mentioned before, for me, I'm a little bit less on scheduling writing and a little bit more on thinking of the amount of hours I want to do in a week. So, for example, I'm on sabbatical this semester, so now I'm trying to shoot for something in the 10 to 14 or 15 hour range a week, but a normal range for me might be 8 to 12. So let's say it's Wednesday and I'm 1 hour. That tells me that I need to make sure that I need to get some writing completed if I want to hit at least 8 hours a week. So getting back to the idea of planning, ideally what should happen, and my life goes so much more smoothly when I take care of this, ideally sometime over the weekend, I actually look ahead to what's happening during the week. For me, this might be some family related things like when do I have a hard stop on a day because I have to pick up a child? When am I doing, for example, a webinar for Defend, Publish, and Lead or another commitment? My sabbatical schedule is a little bit less regimented, but that might include in a normal semester, when am I supposed to be in class? Where is that class? How long does it take for me to get there? When's that dentist appointment? One of the things that I found with my own scheduling is that when I don't look at the week ahead, I am continually surprised and then sometimes annoyed by the things that pop up that interrupt my writing. So there have been many times that I've been burned by looking at my calendar the night before and then discovering, oh, I have a dentist appointment smack in the middle of my writing time because I didn't look. And so I know for me, it goes a little bit more smoothly if I just take 15 minutes on a weekend and just really quickly click through all the days, see what's in there. If I get a little bit more intentional, for example, I mentioned I like to use a paper planner. There are some weeks I don't use it at all because I just never get to writing the things in on Sunday. But I'll tell you, when I do take the time to actually like figure out what is happening on each of these days, when is my best spot for writing, what am I going to work on, I do get more writing accomplished. So I am convinced of the link between planning and getting more writing completed. So some of us are planners and we love doing it, and that's the fun part. So it's not a problem to like do all the planning or block color code things or block things out. But I just know for me, I like to have that feeling that I know what's actually happening. The other thing that I think is really important about this is that the reality is many of us are still going to get interrupted, even with the best planning in the world. It's very likely that something's going to happen. You'll have a flat tire, a student will have a crisis. That writing time might not really be there, even if you've done everything you can to put it there. So I will make sure that I put in our show notes an episode that we did about how to get your writing back after being interrupted, because it is really important to still have contingency planning, even on top of the regular planning. So all of that is to say, too, that planning does take time. So this is where my level of resistance to planning is. I love a good planner. I think color coding is fun. I like all that organization stuff about writing. I think, for me, that's sort of like playing when I'm working with my writing. However, I know for a fact that it takes time, and this is where my wall comes up. So I may decide, oh, I don't want to write all that stuff out in the paper planner. That's going to take me a half hour. I just don't want to. Or something's happening and I just don't want to do it. I know the link between the writing and the thinking for me and really remembering where I'm supposed to be all the time, that link gets broken when I don't write things down. So for the reality of if I'm going to do a real solid plan to figure out what is happening in the next 7 days, I know for me, it takes me 45 minutes. So for some of you, you might think that's so disheartening. Why does it take so long? Some of you may be better at it than me. I know for me, it takes 45 minutes. And this is why. Part of it is because I go back and forth between my electronic calendar, my paper calendar, and I handwrite some stuff in on the pages. I know on those pages, I also have the opportunity where I can list kind of the most important tasks for the day. And it basically serves as a portable to-do list for that page for the day. The other thing, though, that takes me a bit of time is I also look ahead 2 weeks to see what has to happen now in my upcoming week so I don't have a disaster in 3 weeks. So a good example of that would be one of our webinars for Defend, Publish, and Lead. I'm not always the host, but sometimes I am. And I need to know 3 weeks ahead, do we have slides? Who's presenting this content? What is actually happening? That's a demand that happens very frequently. Another thing might be that I realize, oh, in 2 weeks, I'm the person that's scheduled to go on a field trip with one of my children. Well, I'm not on campus that day. What's happening? So it allows me to get a little farther out than just the logistics of the next 7 days, because especially in scholarly work, that's sometimes not enough time. So if I knew I was going to be at a conference in 3 weeks and I hadn't started any slides, I wouldn't want to find that out, the week that the conference is happening. I would want to know at least a little bit ahead. So another thing to keep in mind while doing planning is I think it's fine to plan out the next 7 days, but also just look ahead to the next 2, 3, 4 weeks and see if there's anything for those weeks that still has to come in the upcoming week. That has saved me more times than I can count. And when I don't do it, it's disturbing, but it also adds a layer of stress, and it also takes away from writing time. So here would be a perfect example. A couple of weeks ago, it's more than a couple of weeks ago, let's say 2 months ago in the fall semester, I was really busy, like many of you. It was kind of mid-November, tons of student work coming in, lots of papers. I didn't bother looking at my paper planner, and I didn't really care. And I just sort of knew Thanksgiving is around the corner, so I'm not going to worry about what's happening in the next week, and it's all fine. Well, it wasn't actually fine, because I realized I basically set up a couple of different things all on top of each other, because I had kind of a chain about one of the events in text, I had another one going in email, and then a third one was on my calendar, but I called it something that I wouldn't recognize what it was. So of course I just overlooked it when I did a quick scan on my phone. And I know for me, that caused a whole domino effect of all kinds of things, like returning work late. I completely missed an appointment and had to pay a $15 late fee. I did get it reversed. I called them and said, I'm sorry, I'm flaky. Can I please remove my fee? So I did do that, but I'm just putting that out there that the planning can save time. So, one of the things you might think about too is if it makes you feel better, you can use some of your writing time to plan. We have another podcast episode about that. I will put that in your show notes. If you're using 8 hours a week and you need to really make it 7, where you get that 1 hour to actually plan and know what's going on, I would argue that's a much better use of your time, because those days ahead will be executed more smoothly. So I'll stick that resource in the show notes. If there's other things that you might want to think about planning, I also would pay a little bit of attention to see, do you need a new planning system? Do you like an electronic? Do you like a paper planner? It's the beginning of the year, so this would be the time to get a planner, since we're just at the beginning of February when this episode's created. So hopefully these ideas help, and happy writing this week.